divas and dudes. Great to have you all today. We are starting a new section called Reinvent the Salad. Have any of you seen any of the videos that I've done on salads? I hope you have, and if not, go check them out. There'll be some similarities, but of course, I always do a new twist on it. So even if you had seen some of the video, I'm going to try to give you new and fun, hopefully different information. And you know, when we think of a typical salad, what do we think of? Greens. It's all about the salad dressing. It might be all about the croutons. Vegetables, yeah. See, you guys are so experienced, Rachel. I love it. It's not just about the iceberg, right? And so what I really hope we'll do today and over the next, I think we've got 3 sessions total on Reinvent the Salad, is I want to just blow it out of the water. I want to change really what we think of when we present a salad. I want to think of the size of bowl that we serve it in. So don't do the little side salad, right? No. We need a big bowl. So even something like this isn't quite large enough, right? So we really want to rethink how to add interest and intrigue, how to make the ingredients last, meaning that if you make it in the morning, it'll be great for dinner or even the next day. How do we, layer those vegetables? So we want it to be beautiful. We want it to be nutritious. We want it to have good variety and a lot of interest and intrigue. So easy, right? So if we think about what we want is first, let's do fresh. We're all about getting stuff from the garden, stuff from produce section, even a farmer's market. We also want color. So not just a bunch of green, although we love our greens, we really want to think about how to add more variety and maybe even something that's kind of new and unusual. Now here's one I think that will surprise you. Temperature. I want to vary the temperature. So even if it's, the day of that we cook it, we get to really enjoy the difference in temperature. Even if we, save it for later, some items could be cooked and some items could be fresh. And that gives you a different texture too. So temperature, texture, color is going to all be important in this whole reinvention of the salad. The traditional salad that is kind of, we have this expectation and we really want to be able to change that. And then we also want to think of where are the nutritional components. So when we think of nutritional, we want to make sure we've got some protein in there. We want to get some complex carbohydrates. We want it to be satisfying enough so that we don't eat the salad and then 20 minutes later feel like, okay, I need something else because I'm still hungry. We don't want to go there. So how do we think through that? So what I want to do is start to kind of build. There's in a Buddha bowl, which is what we're going to do today. A Buddha bowl is going to have some big pillars that we want to try to cover when we're creating one. And of course, we look at our best foods list, and a lot of this is going to be from the carbohydrate category, but we know, as experts as we are, that in the category of carbohydrates, we can still get protein. We can still get some healthy fats. There's all kinds of variation that's going to really help us. So in a Buddha bowl, which is today's star, I'd like to say that I invented this, but lo and behold, somebody else copied me or something like that. Because if you've been to restaurants, you've probably seen a Buddha bowl on a menu, darn it. But what's nice is no Buddha bowls have to be the same. They can be different in your home. They can be different in Powerhouse Bakery. And so, it's a great way to use up leftovers, but it's also a really fun way to add variety. So in general, what I like to say with a Buddha bowl is let's have a root. Let's have maybe a hard winter squash. Because honestly, squash, whenever you cook like a butternut or a spaghetti squash, it feels like it goes and goes, right? And so it's kind of nice to be able to reinvent it, maybe dress it up different on day 2 and 3 so that day 1 and 3 feel like it's a different vegetable. So let's create a way that squash, especially spaghetti, will give us some really nice variety. So a root, a spaghetti squash, of course, we can't live without our herbs. And so, of course, there could be some base of lettuces, but let's just really think about what herbs we might do. And then we could do our other vegetables. Okay, so others could be whatever you have in the pantry, right? Or in the refrigerator, I mean. We also think of, instead of the roots, we might do beans. And they kind of fall into that category of where's my complex carbohydrates, where's my like stick to your ribs kind of calories. They really got to come into that spot. And then we know we want to have some healthy oils or just maybe healthy fats. So I'm going to show you how to make a salad dressing today that really doesn't even need oil because we're going to use fats from seeds. And so get adventurous with this. You could even do an avocado. We've all probably had guacamole. And you could make that your base sauce and not even need an extra salad dressing. So that's something I love to really teach, is because, you know, we have beautiful avocados. Sometimes you'll get a bag of them or several at the store, and then they all kind of want to ripen at once. How do you extend the life of that avocado? Of course, adding some citrus or some kind of acid will certainly help, but using it in a salad dressing is a great way to use it and really celebrate its flavors. But today I'm going to use a specific fat, the sesame tahini. Anybody ever use this? Yes, I see some hands go up. It looks like this side of the room, yes. This side of the room, no. Oops, I had it upside down. I love this squeeze bottle too. I've tried lots of different tahinis. Some are better than others. So be exploring and find one that you really like. Yes. Mm-hmm. Also use an oil if you're going to. Use one that's got some flavor. You've heard me talk about walnut oil a lot. I think that's a great ingredient, especially in this setting, because we want to make sure we've got some flavor. Always, I talk about layers of flavor, and nothing could be more valuable than in a salad. What you're going to see is I'm going to create little individual flavors, and then instead of mixing them all together, a Buddha bowl needs to have distinct kind of columns where each interesting item lives on its own, so that when you're enjoying your salad, you get a little bit of that, and then a little bit of this, and you go over here and have a little bit of that, rather than it being a homogeneous mixture. You know, that's kind of common in salads. We toss it all together. Not so in the Buddha bowl. So the healthy fats can be in your dressing, and then it can also be in, of course, you guessed it, the seeds. You know, so often people ask me, what do you do with the mighty seeds, the chia, the hemp hearts, the flax, the pumpkin seeds? What do you do with them? And then I always respond, well, what do you not do with them? Because we want to get in the habit of putting them on all kinds of things. A little side note, I've been enjoying hemp hearts on my toast. So I do a little bit of sun butter, and then I layer it with some hemp hearts. Oh my gosh, it's delicious. I've also been putting hemp hearts on my roasted sweet potato. So cut side down, cook it till it's nice and caramely soft, flip it over. Hemp seeds fit beautifully in that category. So the sky's the limit when you're thinking about seeds, but a Buddha bowl really showcases them beautifully, because now we get to sprinkle them here or there. You're going to see that I like to dress the salads in different ways. For example, the red cabbage, I made a separate sauce for this cabbage, and then I can dress it with just some of the seeds. So I might put hemp hearts on this, and then it mixed together and has its own little environment of flavor, and it's going to go into my Buddha bowl. On my roasted potatoes, I season these with a little different profile. This was actually oregano, thyme, and walnut oil, sea salt for sure, and then some flaxseed. So I put that on as I roasted them. And then they're the second salad that goes into my big Buddha bowl. For my protein, of course, garbanzo beans. But as you probably have heard in me talking about it before, is garbanzo beans can be awfully plain by themselves. And so we really want to be able to dress them up and let them marinate on their own before we put it into a salad. If you've ever had garbanzo beans like on a salad bar and they're just kind of sitting there in that tub and you sprinkle them on, you think, well, that's underwhelming. And you never want to really grab garbanzo beans again. So I always try to remind people that these guys soak up flavor so well. So a little side marinade is a perfect way to use them. And of course, using the great vinegars, whether it be rice vinegar or lemon juice or lime juice, perfect way to do a little side marinade. And then lastly, I've got my broccoli over there. So I'm gonna chop that, let it steam a little bit, and that's gonna be my warm item that I'm gonna add to my salad. And again, broccoli is so good cold. So don't feel that you have to, heat it up for your Buddha bowl, but it's kind of fun again to have something that's a new temperature variation. The other thing that we want to do is, it's kind of along the lines of putting in your super healthies, texture and size of the cuts. Putting in your potatoes or your beans or even your beets. It's interesting and fun to have different shapes. So if you don't already have a mandolin, that might be a fun item to purchase or get as your next gift. I know some of you went out and bought the air fryer that I use, and so now I've got one more gadget. And I promise you, I'm not a gadget girl, but the mandolin, I've been watching and kind of thinking maybe that's something I want to invest in too, because you can make some beautiful slices. And again, the eyes eat first in a Buddha bowl. As I always go through the best equipment, of course, a mandolin's very special, but getting a good knife, a French chef's knife that has a good edge to it, can work just fine. So I'll be showing you that today when we do our food production. So we want to have complex carbohydrates. We want to have something that's going to hold some good sauce. We want to put in lots of nutrition. And of course, whenever it comes to others, broccoli, bell peppers, I even roasted some poblano peppers, right? And so you could have them fresh or you could have them grilled. And so all of these variations are going to be what I try to introduce to you over the next couple of visits. It's not today, but it's coming. I'm going to show you how to marinate and grill tempeh and tofu, because all of us need to know how to cook tofu. It's one of those things where it's absolutely bland, but that's a feature, not a bug. Because if it's bland, that means that it's a clean slate and we get to dress it up in any way we want, and it'll take on the colors and the flavors of our bright spices. So, thinking about all those others makes it really fun to start creating, and then you'll find that you start to gravitate towards some of your most favorites. So now what I'm going to do is write down a couple of the sauces. And I've been watching YouTube. So those of you that come to my Thursday class, the Zoom class, I shared a cute guy on YouTube, and he's so much fun to watch. He and his girlfriend are vloggers, video blogging. And I just love him. I feel like we are similar spirits. He doesn't measure. He goes by look and flavor. And of course I do measure, but not when I'm creating, and I really want us to feel comfortable not measuring, because then you get to really be artists with food. And so I feel like that's what this guy is. I mean, he thinks through the color, and he, of course, is working the camera and working this cutting board at the same time. And so it's been really fun to learn from other chefs. And so that's what I really challenge you guys to do as well. So let's talk about a sauce. So again, in the Buddha bowl, we want to have at least 2 sauces, maybe even a third. But a sauce can be kind of a loose term because, it could be just some olive oil and vinegar, but we don't usually just stop there. We also want some spice to, again, dress up the flavors and the interest and intrigue in each stage. So on the sauces, I'm going to show you a couple of items that I want us to get to use that are kind of new. And I'm so sorry that Maria's not here, because Maria Zeitz was so sweet to treat the Diva and Dude classes to this beautiful, it's called the Bomba, Italian Bomba. Oh, she will. Okay, good. Then she's going to get to see it. It's quite spicy, but it turned out to be a great addition to a salad dressing that I'm going to show you. So you can use any kind of hot pepper. This is the one I normally use. Again, I think this is available at Walmart. It used to be at H-E-B, and now it's not as easy to find at H-E-B, but it's basically just a stir-in paste of red chili. So again, pretty spicy, but a great ingredient. And then I love this product. It's ginger in a tube. So it's very clean ingredients. It doesn't last forever in your fridge, you know, so you want to get lots of good ways to use it. My ginger lime dressing, I use this. My ginger studs, if you've ever had that muffin, we go through lots of tubes of this. I even tried to buy it from the source, and yeah, the source was so far away I couldn't really connect with them, but nonetheless, it's a great product and it's still available. If you can't find this one, there is another tube. It kind of is this shape at HEB. So Dijon mustard. Anybody use Dijon mustard very much in sauces? Yes. If you've tried our Suzette dressing, it uses Dijon as well as sesame oil, as well as rice vinegar and lots of other, you know, flavors. But a traditional French vinaigrette that, you know, the French make in their big bowl is always Dijon mustard, maybe some shallots, and then olive oil. So Dijon mustard is just a really great anchor of the Mediterranean flavors, and it just adds so much to it. And then, of course, you could use fresh lemon or lime, or if you don't have it handy, you can use the little squeeze bottles. There's some really good brands out there. This one I get in the produce section at HEB, and you can get them on the in the dry section as well. But just try to get one that is fresh, not from concentrate. It's lime juice. Mm-hmm. Try to get fresh, not from concentrate. So in your sauce, we know we want to get something that is going to have a layer of salt. There's got to be something that has acid or acidic, and usually some garlic, but not obligatory. You know, if you're not a garlic fan, you could leave that out, but acidic, salt, and sweet. Some layer of those is going to be really important. And so, you know, if you wanted to leave out the garlic, you could do some sort of herb. But garlic's kind of a favorite. So it finds its way, whether it's roasted or fresh. Garlic's a really nice add-in. So many cultures' palate is accustomed to garlic. It's a really nice, for sure, add-in. But it changes it so much if you roast it, or you have it fresh, or you pan saute it. So lots of ways to add interest and intrigue with the way that you do garlic. Okay, and so then with the spice, you got to decide, are we going to go how much heat we're going to do. So hot to mild. And you know, that again, you can have one salad that's really kind of hot and spicy, and then the other ones will be soft, and then when you eat them, your palate gets a rest. So like in this one, I use the sauce that's made with the bamba. So I dress the cabbage in a spicy red sauce, and around it, I'll have the cool, fresh flavors of cucumber, of the ginger lime dressing with the carrots. And so you get this really nice element of sweet that balance really well with the spice. So be thinking about, when you eat your salad, where that's going to go in your lineup. Something else that works beautifully in the sweet is adding a fruit at the top. I don't have that one today on my Buddha bowl, but I love adding a piece of fruit. You could do something unusual, like maybe a candied ginger, or a candied mango, just a few little pieces. So again, your palate goes, wow. And it's such a nice balance, because you'll eat over to the left and have something hot and spicy, over to the right something cool and maybe a little bit creamy. And so again, getting those flavors all mixed together is what makes a Buddha bowl so much fun. So no rules, but in general, we want to have a root, we want to have some kind of green, some kind of herb, some kind of other vegetables to balance it out, always with bright colors. And then we really start playing with the sauces and the spices. Okay? Let's get cooking. Okay, I've got a good setup started here. I'm gonna prep some veggies, and I'm gonna kind of lay them all out so you can see how I'm gonna build my beautiful Buddha bowl in this big glass bowl. And then what I thought we would do is, once I get it all made, then I want everybody to get to take a little scoop out of it and put it on your plate. Sound okay? So I'm gonna make sure I make enough for all of us to get a little sample. If not, I can always make some more. And then let me show you what else I've already made. This is my spaghetti squash. Now you've seen me make this before. In our last class, we cooked it, we pulled it out, and I added some basil and some spinach and some fresh cilantro and parsley from my garden. And I added in some orange segments, little bit of cheese. So that's pretty much it. I did not add ginger lime. I just kept it really simple. And now we're gonna dress it as we go, okay? Parmesan. But I brought over a little bit of goat cheese, which I love. So we'll see if we want to add this in. Sometimes at the very top, I'll just sprinkle a few little dabs of the goat cheese. It's soft, and so it's a really nice way just to add a little nibble. And then I also have some cooked lentils. So remember I mentioned that we can use our garbanzo beans and we can dress these up and kind of have them on the side. But it just so happened I had some leftover lentils. So I want you to see how we can dress this up. And notice that they're pretty sticky. They're not an individual bean, and that's okay. That's gonna have a really nice base. And so it'll add richness to our bite, and it's gonna be real pretty. Now I did cook this with bay leaves, some quinoa spice, and of course some salt. Okay, so again, Buddha bowl needs to be unique and different every time, and using leftovers is the bomb. So that's why I wanted to be able to pull these out. Also, I have some arugula. So this will be our greens base, which I love. Very spicy. So again, when I'm thinking about flavor levels of interest and intrigue, arugula is a great one because it's got a lot of interest. It's got a lot of kick. All right, so now I'm heating up my skillet and I'm gonna put a little bit of water in. So you haven't seen me cook broccoli like this before, I don't think. So I wanna show you how easy it is to use fresh broccoli and just steam it right in a skillet. So the way the broccoli floret is, I'm gonna put it in with the head down so it will cook all those beautiful florets and just keep it as firm as possible. So a lot of the stem I won't use, so I kind of cut that part off. And now I'm just gonna get beautiful bite-sized pieces of my broccoli. You could do the same thing with asparagus. You've seen me cook that one before, but broccoli is a little more forgiving. I mean, broccoli isn't bad if it's soft. You know, people kind of like broccoli in lots of different textures. And so this one is, I think, a really fun way just to make sure the florets stay bright and pretty and just get enough softness to be enjoyable in a salad. So I'm getting different cut sizes. Some of them are medium, some of them will be small, and I'll even leave a little bit of them on the larger side so it'll keep them a little bit firmer. So I'm gonna let my water, I think I'm gonna let it evaporate another 30 seconds or so, and I'll cut up my next batch. I'm also gonna prep some garlic. So this is a great head of garlic. No green, nothing growing. Really, the trick is to not let it sprout. It does change the flavor. So I'm gonna use probably 3 or 4 garlic cloves. So again, they're really nice when it's kind of dry like this, but not hollow. We don't want any black. We don't want any shrinkage. But when the papers come off like this perfectly, we know that's a really good clove of garlic. A what? No, I haven't, but I think it would be fantastic to experiment. I've used elephant garlic. Anybody use that one? Elephant garlic's really interesting. I honestly think it's more mild flavored. Anybody agree? Yeah? Okay, so as you know, I'm pressing it. There's been lots of tricks of ways to get the paper off. Honestly, I think getting a good head of garlic is the trick. If it's nice and dry but not old, the papers come off so easily. If it's still a little green, you have to like work at it and get them off, and that's not nearly as fun. So this was a really good head. In the dark, so not in the fridge. And if it's in a bright area and certain times of year, it might try to sprout. And I had that problem. I think I showed you one last time. So this one's really good. If anybody has any other tricks, I'd love to hear them. But I know just not with the sun.
I just have garlic box.
A garlic box, yeah.
My mother had, and I just put it in there and just leave it in the damp.
There you go. In the dark. I love it. Dark and cool. Fantastic. Okay, so I like the amount of simmering I've got going on with my water. There's just probably about 1/8 of an inch of water, because if I time it just right, there shouldn't be really any water left when I let the process go to cook my broccoli. So now I'm going to put a little bit of my taco tango spice in there and a little bit of salt. There we go. So what does salt do to boiling water? Does it make it boil better? Does it raise or lower the boiling point? Yes. Yes, yes, makes it raise. Okay, so I'm putting it for the most part with the tops down. And you remember I've mentioned before that I want the olive oil to go on top of the vegetable rather than heating up the vegetable from the bottom up. And this works really good. So you can kind of see I'm getting all the tops of the broccolis down for the most part. And now my water is going away fast. So I might add a little bit more. Yeah, that looks good. So see, when they cook, they're starting to get really pretty and bright. And that's what we want. Okay, so while that's working its way to completion, I'm going to get my other veggies ready. So if I had a mandolin, I would use that for making my beautiful carrots. I don't have one, so I bought some julienne carrots from H-E-B. Honestly, I never do that, but I just thought, well, if we didn't have time, could we do it? Of course. But I'm really of the habit of using my knife, but I thought, we could certainly use that as a once in a while option. And then now what we're going to do is our peppers. So look at all the colors. I've got green, red, orange, yellow. I could use the carrots. I even have some tomatoes with the same color profile. And then I've got my beautiful purple cabbage. So again, this adds so much color. I wouldn't even need to necessarily cook it, but I did on this one so that we could have different things that are fresh and raw. And then of course my potatoes I'm going to chop a little more too, because I don't want them to be too large. Remember that having the different sizes really helps, because you don't want to get a big mouthful of something that you really wished you had a knife to cut. A salad should be fairly easy to eat with a fork. So I pull out the stems and the seeds, and I'm going to cut off the ends just so I have really nice round section of my pepper that gives me some beautiful strips. Remember, when you're using your French chef's knife, you want to cut down where the tip is and glide it forward to where the end is. So you start with the tip on the table or the cutting board, and you rock it to the back section, which is where most of your cutting happens. Yep, that's perfect. So we've got some beautiful peppers. Now I could use these, of course. They're just not quite as fun because the shapes are a little funky. But, sometimes we create that as a feature, not a bug, and I can certainly cut them long ways and still get some really nice size cuts. So easy to eat, good colors. Make sure your knife goes all the way through them. Yeah, so those are good sizes, right? Okay, let's check on our broccoli now. It looks like it's coming along very nicely. I'm going to flip them over. The least amount of water, the better, because I don't want to really boil the veggies and lose some of the nutrients. So my flavors are getting concentrated too, because as the water evaporates, I'm still getting all that good taco tango spice in there and the salt. So it'll give me good flavor. I think it's just about ready for the olive oil. All right, let's add some olive oil. So just a little sprinkle over each one. Yep, that looks great. Okay, now my other colors. So I haven't decided yet if I want my garlic to be cooked or raw. I think I might use a little bit in the dressing that will be raw. There's my beautiful orange peppers. Anybody not like peppers? Yes, I know Mary doesn't. Mary's like, no peppers. Yeah. And Elaine, you too, huh? And Irene, you too? They're pretty, but you don't like them. I know, darn it. But they're so nutrient rich. So nutrient rich. Love it, love it. Okay, so I think my broccoli looks gorgeous. A little bit of spice. Any spice you like. So I used my Taco Tango and a little bit of salt. Again, just because I like to layer every flavor. Another thing we could do that would be fun is to add some seeds. Broccoli holds up seeds really well. So here I've got a little caraway, black sesame, toasted garlic, and some flax seeds. So I can just sprinkle those on there too. All right, so let's bring these babies off. See, so I planned it just about right. There's not really any water left, maybe a tablespoon, not much at all. But probably a third of a cup, probably. And then I kind of watched it because again, you want to put it in so that you don't have a lot that covers the broccoli, because I like them to stay pretty crisp. Now, if you had somebody in your family that liked them to be softer, you could also just give them a quick slice and they'll cook faster. So, having the stems separate, it'll cook them faster. But these are just perfect al dente if you ask me. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and cook a little bit of my garlic. But then I'm going to make our sauce with the sesame tahini and the ginger. All right, so just a little bit of toasted garlic. It'll make the room smell so good. Turn the heat down. So I didn't add any oil. I just wanted to toast gently. A little bit of olive oil. Won't be a bad thing. Okay. Now, while that's toasting away, I'm going to do a quick chop of my potatoes. So with the red potatoes, what I did last night, so we have them for dinner. We have them kind of a quartered size. And that's just a little on the big side for a salad. Again, we just want it to be an easy bite. So I'm going to pull some out and just do a rough chop. So, and I wouldn't worry too much about getting every single one, but some of them will be a little bigger than others, and it just gives a nice interest and intrigue. Is it starting to smell good? The garlic! Yes. Okay, so that's about as much chopping as I wanted to do. And I'm going to warm them up in with my garlic. Oh, yeah, smells so good. One more time? Oh, I used oregano, thyme, and salt when I roasted them yesterday. And of course, a little bit of olive oil. And, when you're getting ready to toast them or to bake them, just put your cut potatoes into a bowl and just a quick little drizzle of olive oil, 2 seconds, so 1/1000, 2/1000, and then use your spice, because we're going to get to see lots of different layers of flavor on these potatoes. But see, so that's going to be so good in a little bite of our salad. All right, so now we're going to put these in my next bowl. And notice I did pretty high ratio of garlic to potato. So don't be afraid to be adventurous with how much garlic you use. And again, I had a little bit of seeds in there as well. Caraway or dill or fennel. Okay, I'm going to turn this off. Okay, so now I've got my potatoes. I've got my beautiful other vegetable. I've got my broccoli that's steamed. And I think I told you about this one. Let me go ahead and kind of show you what I did with this. I cut it in very thin slices. I'll put it in here so you can see it better. Very thin slices. And then I sauteed it with a very small amount of olive oil, some fresh cilantro, and just let it cook a little bit. Usually when we have it in the Buddha bowl, we have already dressed it in some ginger lime dressing. And so I'm going to do that here. Give it a little kick. So the ginger lime is also one that's going to have your basic flavors. So it'll have a little bit of sweetness. It'll have a little bit of acid. You don't even really have to add in the hotness. You know, just ginger, lime, and honey is really a great combination. Now in this one, I'm going to add a little bit of maple and a little bit of the rice vinegar. So this is going to give a little bit of a sweetness all by itself. So it's a really nice combination. So I'm just going to give it a quick touch up, because remember I already did some of the seasoning when I sauteed it, but I just want to layer it a little bit more. Yeah, that looks beautiful. And again, let's put a little bit of our seeds, sesame seeds and fennel. Yeah, that looks great. Beautiful. All right, we're going to put this back in. So basically, I was just kind of showing you what all went in this. And I just added a little bit of rice vinegar. And when I cooked it, I added about the same thing: olive oil, salt, a little rice vinegar, and the ginger lime dressing. Ginger lime, of course, has a little honey in it, and that's another sweet component. Okay, so now we've got colors coming up beautifully. Let's move on to making our dressings. And get my other bowl. Yeah, right here. Okay, so this is where you want to take notes, because I just sort of get a rough idea of the amounts, and then we have to sample to make sure we like it. But with the sesame tahini and the Dijon, it's about a 1-to-1 ratio. So we're going to start with 2 tablespoons of tahini. So it's nice and creamy. 1, 2. Okay, and then the Dijon. You know what, I'm going to change that. I just told you 1-to-1. I'm going to change it to 1-to-2. So 2 tablespoons of the tahini, 1 tablespoon of Dijon. See, I told you I'm so intuitive. I thought, no, that doesn't sound right. I've made it several times, and I adjust it kind of at the end. So I want you to make sure you get the flavors that you like. So I've got my savory with a little bit of a kick. I've got the creaminess with the sesame tahini, which is also going to be my added fat. And now I'm going to do a little kick of ginger. Let's start with a tablespoon of ginger. And again, we can always add after we sample. Now I'm going to use this hot one. And this is where I know it's not going to take a tablespoon. 1 teaspoon. Because I don't want you guys to have to run to the drinking fountain and tame your mouth. So a teaspoon. And rice vinegar, 2 tablespoons. That was the Bamba. 2 tablespoons. And now the sweetness, a little bit of organic maple syrup. Let's start with 1 tablespoon. Now when you measure, go all the way up to the top of your measuring spoon. I know everybody has a little different style. You know, like the thought process is, well, don't fill it all the way up because you don't want to spill it. You think like that. But just be consistent if you don't want to fill it all the way up to the top, because I always feel like that's what the measuring spoon is for. And when you're getting into very small detail, like tablespoon and teaspoon, if you don't fill it up all the way, you've just now given yourself 3/4 of a teaspoon, right? Yeah. Okay. So here is my sauce to start. Ooh, it has a good feel under the whisk. I feel like it's going to have good texture. And of course, if we want to thin it out, we could add a little bit of water. But I'm not sure we need to just yet. See, that has a good, it holds on to the whisk pretty well. See? Okay, let's give it a tablespoon of water. Yeah, I like that. See, if it's too heavy, then you might get too much in one bite, right? Yeah. And we're not going to dress everything with this. We're only going to dress one or two things. So I think I'm going to put my other veggies in this sauce. All right, I have to taste. Really good. I get a little bit of the rice vinegar. Definitely did not need the 1-to-1 of the Dijon. I'm so glad I rethought that. So two of the tahini, 1 of the Dijon. Could even go a little lower if you don't like that little kick of flavor. And then, of course, the ginger was really good. I did not add any salt, but I think what I'd like to do is add a little bit of the raw garlic. So I have one of my cloves here that I started with. I'm going to chop that up. So 1 clove. And, you know, it just makes a very small amount of salad dressing because you want to make fresh each time. But, of course, you could make a larger amount and then have it in your refrigerator. See, that looks really good. All right, so now let's dress up our other vegetables. So I've got to have my peppers. And we'll even just do a little bit of the broccoli because remember we did add some flavor to the broccoli. And I'm going to add a couple of cucumbers in there too. Because some of them I'm going to leave plain, some veggies, and some will be dressed. So I'm just doing kind of a rough chop. Add that into my marinated vegetables. So the arugula is going to go down on one side. If it were kale, I might put it on the very bottom because kale can manage kind of having the extra weight, you know, of the sauces and the other veggies, but not so much the case with arugula. It's a little more delicate. So now let's start our layering. I'm going to go with the sauce on the veggies and put that down first. Yeah, that looks good. So I'm just going to mix that in. Just so it gets a little coating on each veggie. Maybe add a little bit more broccoli in there. Let's see where to put my broccoli. Just for the color, because again, everything I do, I want it to have good balance of brightness and interest. Yeah, that's what we needed. I could even chop that broccoli more and kind of let it be a salad, you know, within the salad. While we keep everything distinct, sometimes each little individual salad needs to hold its team together. So yeah, that looks really good. Okay, so now I'm going to put this in one section. These are the tougher veggies, so they're going to go in first. And I'm kind of putting them on the side just a little bit. And now I'm going to add my carrots to this base, and I'm going to add a different flavor on top. So now I've got my carrots and whatever was left over in that, I'm going to change the sauce a little bit. So a little bit of the tahini blend with the bamba is in there, and now I'm going to add a little bit of sesame oil. Yeah. A little bit of salt's going to come next. You could even add some cocoa aminos in this spot. That has an interesting, fun Asian flavor. A little bit of salt. Yeah, so this part won't have any of the bamba. It'll be a sweet bite, whereas this one's going to have some of that kick. Yeah, that looks great. I might add some fresh ground pepper in this if I wanted to add that pretty color, or I could add my seeds. Give it a little interest and intrigue. You could have 2 or 3 different seed combinations too. And each salad holds its own variation. So maybe one would have the fennel, one would have sesame seeds. It's really fun that way.
So that's the carrots and the cucumbers.
Carrots, cucumbers, and I think I'm going to add a little bit of tomato to that one. You could cut them in half if you wanted. I'm just going to leave them whole. Yeah, that looks great. Okay, so now I want to add a little bit of separation. So I think I'm going to put my arugula and my spaghetti squash in my big bowl next. Because I want to make sure that when I'm eating the salad and when you're serving, you have a little separation so you can see what's what. So I'm going to put my spaghetti squash dressed over there on the side. And right in the center, I'm going to put my arugula. Actually, I think I'm going to dress this a little bit too. It's a little on the not so pretty side. And I just bought this, and there are a few little yellow ones, which isn't bad, but I'm not happy when it's not super perky and fresh. So the way I'm going to combat that is just to coat the leaves a little bit so it lasts even better. Kind of slows down the oxidation process. There we go. Yeah, that looks good. So now you can see a little bit of the spaghetti squash, a little bit of the colored veggies. Nice. Sure. Yeah. No, I wouldn't do fine. Actually, with romaine, I'd leave the leaves whole. Leave them whole, and then when you take out a romaine leaf, and then your other small little side salads, you add onto the romaine. Romaine does not live well when it's been cut. It gets brown really easily. So just leave them whole. I've done that before, and it's really quite lovely. You have the whole leaves kind of around the edge, and your guests can pull one out. It's perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to put my carrots right there in the center. So again, it has a slightly different dressing on it, still very light. Okay, and now for my cooked items. My potatoes are going to go on this side. Remember with the fresh garlic that I just did a little bit of a saute. Oh yeah, that smells good. And now for my final color. Look, and I ran out of spots for my lentils, so I might have to do a separate one for that. If this was a wider bowl, I could do it, and so don't be afraid to get a wide, beautiful bowl to decorate in. So I'm going to put that right there and maybe right over here. And see, if I mix this all together, you would just get a homogeneous bite. And now what we want is each little bite has some interesting flavor pizzazz. Ooh, I'm loving it. Now to finish it off, I'm going to add some fresh sliced veggies. Just so it looks complete. I probably will go ahead and put a little goat cheese in there too. Yeah, I think we had plenty of sauce because I don't ever want to over season or over dress the greens. Excuse me, because it's better if it stays fresh and light. So I'll do a little bit of the goat cheese and a little bit of fresh sliced veg. And this one is actually flavored with herb. I normally get the plain. Looks like but that'll be okay. Okay, so now I'm just going to start to dress up my salad so it looks really pretty at the final stage. Put a little dab of the goat cheese right on the top. It kind of helps it to stick in and kind of makes it look like it's got a yummy little bite you can't wait to nibble on. Let's see. Okay, and I'll put this on next. So you definitely don't have to toss this salad, but you could have some extra items on the side. If somebody that doesn't like tomatoes, you could pass the tomatoes around. If any of you were at the Thrivewell luncheon, I love how they had some farm fresh greens on the table, and you could kind of add as you go. So everybody doesn't have to have the same toppings. So that's really what this goat cheese could have been too. All right, and then that is a beautiful salad. So I've got all kinds of interest and intrigue all the way down to the bottom. They've got raw, we've got bright colors, we've got layers of flavor. Pretty fun, okay? So one more little topper, since we didn't get to have a lot of that broccoli flavor. So you could just keep layering, right? Placing them there gives them real distinct positioning for flavor. I could do some fresh ground pepper right at the top. Actually, I don't like that one. I think the florets are so pretty. I just haven't really figured out a good way to use the base of the broccoli. Anybody? What do you do with the base? Soups? Yeah, you could certainly do that. So there is our Buddha bowl. Gorgeous, right? Yay! So pretty. The seeds could go on top. Now I'm going to do one more because I want to use up our lentils. So let me get another bowl. I want to be able to show you how to use those lentils in the same thing. So I'm going to make a little smaller one, and we'll go with the greens at the base, kind of on the side. And I'm going to mix in the, let me get this guy right here. I think this is so pretty up against the green. I'm going to mix that in with my arugula. So see at the base, I'm just going to stir that in. I could imagine putting orange slices right here, right in that combination. So that's going to be off to the side. Now I'll do my fresh carrots around the base. Maybe one or two a little bit larger potatoes. And so they're just going to poke out to the side. And then I'm going to add my lentils. And it's kind of thick. So now I want to balance out that thickness with a light veggie. So I think that's where my cucumber is going to go. Sometimes when I make lentils, I pull them off sooner, and then it's more like a bean. But even better is to use the pui lentil. It's a little French green lentil, and they don't break down and cook as much. Anybody ever use those? Look for them. They're darker green. I have not seen them at H-E-B, but I have seen them at Whole Foods and at Sprouts. It's a really nice way to go. So because I'm going to break up my lentils a little bit, I'm going to cut my slices of cucumber into quarters, and I'm going to slice some fresh tomato, and that's going to be what I kind of mix into that lentil. Because sometimes when people see lentils like that, they think of stew and they want to heat it up. And of course, if I'm serving this the first time, I could put hot lentils in this, and it would be so good to have hot lentils with the cool arugula and the cold sauteed cabbage. But on this one, I want to keep it cold. So I'm going to mix in the cold veggies. So, you know, my palate says, oh, okay, I get it. This is supposed to all be cold. I sell a curry lentil salad, and it's on a big bed of greens, very similar. And people at first used to say, well, how do I heat this up? And it's like, no, it's cold. Oh, okay, got it. Yes, so now that looks good. Now I'm going to use my tongs and just toss it around a little bit around the my lentils, and I'm going to put some seeds right on the top. Oops, come back here, you. So gone are the days that we have to keep our food separated and eating all one type of food at a time. Makes it really fun. And let's finish it off with a little bit of seeds. Oh yeah, that looks great. Wipe off the edge. So now this one has the lentils, a tiny bit of potato. I left a little bit larger because it's kind of an accent piece. No broccoli at all. And no peppers, for those of you who don't want peppers. This is the one to nibble on. Has cucumber and cherry tomatoes that are all bare, no dressing. The arugula is blended with that cabbage that, again, had a spicy sauce that I made last night, and so it makes a great little variation. Okay, so now you have two options for your Buddha bowl. All right? Hope you love them all. Bon appetit.